Welcome to Under the Sisterhood, where we honor female experiences. During each episode, I will have intimate conversations with women of all ages to get under the hood of their individual journeys through womanhood. Together, we'll pursue the many aspects of the female experience, creating a sacred space for women to share their stories, their ideas, and their wisdom. This is a podcast to celebrate women and recognize all that they do in our world. I'm Elizabeth Elfenbein. Let's get under the hood. I'd like to welcome and honor LD, LD Holley. LD is a daughter, soul sister, granddaughter, niece, cousin, friend, hype squad cheerleader, experience creator, circle holder, movement guide, flow artist, and fire dancer. For over 25 years, her life has been guided by movement and filled with experiences, allowing her to connect, express, and continue to grow into the fullest expression of her being. From competitive figure skating and an interest in events and party logistics from a young age, LD has spent her life deepening her connection to her body and own inner wisdom while creating experiences for people to enjoy and expand their horizons, paying forward the gifts she received as a child. With training and experience in a variety of dance styles, flow arts, yoga, reiki, and NeuroSomatic flow, LD believes that everyone is a dancer. I couldn't be more grateful and honored to have you here today to join me as a guest. Thank you so much, LD.
Thank you so much for having me here, Elizabeth. An
This
honor.
so this has been the experience of Under the Sisterhood has just been such a soulful, deep experience. The women have been shared their sacred stories, and it's just been so enriching for me personally, and I can't wait till it becomes available to the world. Why don't we get into the questions, and you can add to that, to the magic that people are going to get to hear.
Let's
So
get started.
awesome. So, this is a really general question, but I think a really important one, because it's different for everyone. But what does being a woman mean to you?
Being a woman is a gift, and it's a very powerful thing. And with with the power that we have as women, it is also a challenge, which has been made more challenging by the society that we've lived in and have had to tend and experience so many things. But the power that we have as women is transformative. And when we come together as women, there's nothing that can stop us. So I think it's a pretty great thing to be a woman.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I'm already starting. Everybody, I keep saying I have goosebumps, but I couldn't agree more. We are so powerful. And you're right. If we unite, imagine the power, we can do anything. And I think in particular, now it's like, it's not even if it's we must unite. We must unite and become that sisterhood. So moving right along, because this goes to like our journeys as women. It's a two-part question. What has your female experience been like? But so we've had this female experience, you've had yours, LD. But at what point, what was that inflection point that you recognized that you were a woman?
My experience as a woman, I guess it's been evolving as we do it in life. And it's been coming back to a place of authenticity and expressing the inner knowing rather than all the different hats and costumes and pieces of what a woman could or should be or we're told we're supposed to or meant to be. So there's been a lot of dress up in this life, I could say, on a journey to find my expression as a woman. And honestly, I kind of think I'm beyond in some ways, whereas it's a facet of who I am that I get to be in this realm, but it is a component that I get to experience right now. And honestly, you hear about the phases of being a woman, and in some religions or cultures and societies, there are more of those traditions around that. In our society, in the US, generally, it's like oh, you get your period, you're a woman now, or oh, you have sex and you're a woman now. And so there's all these things which are kind of deemed to the experience of coming into your adult and your womanhood. And honestly, thinking about the question of when I really felt myself coming into my womanhood, I distinctly remember a night this past December. So at the age of 28. And I think I had a fire show that night or something, and was home and was getting ready for bed. And I'm like in a t shirt, like smeared makeup and glitter everywhere, probably at this point. And I saw myself as someone outside of myself, seeing myself. So I witnessed a reflection of myself that others could see as I've shown up in my being at this age 29 or 28, that I felt like I was still this soul, this child, this being in this body, which is age, but has not really felt like there's the awareness, but the embodiment felt like a struggle or a challenge often up until that point where I really could see the fullness of who I am and myself as a woman and someone who is so powerful and knows it, but it has found it easy to question it also.
That is so beautiful. And it's really interesting that you said it that way. I like a couple of pieces of that. I mean, I like the whole thing. But what struck out to me was your ability to see yourself from the outside looking in, and also the separation of what society deems is womanhood, or what signifies womanhood in the Western culture versus other cultures, and wearing all these different hats or fake things, versus being our authentic selves and knowing yourself as a woman. And I think that, wow, if you have figured that out at 28, you are so far ahead of all of us. And even if you just felt like a woman today, like at 28, because I think that when I felt it, just hearing you say that, if I were to think of it from that lens, which is, when did you feel it? It was when I was pregnant with Olivia and I was 29 years old, because all of a sudden I had life in me. And I think that's really funny. Having the period didn't make me feel more like a woman. Having sex didn't make me feel like more like a woman. It was just a thing you did, So I think that's really interesting. I didn't think of it from that perspective. So thank you for sort of wow, for getting me to think differently. Wow, that's really interesting. So you're 28, so 10 years ago, what would you, so you're looking at yourself in the mirror, but you're your 18-year-old self. What would you want to tell your 18-year-old self if you could go back and talk to her today?
Ooh. Slow down and breathe and just remember who you are and what you want to do, because there are so many external things that you think you want, and you might and you will want them for a time, but it's never going to be everything. And with all the things that you want to do, you're going to be able to do whatever you want to do that inspires you and brings you joy. But don't stress and force yourself to try and do it all at once. You can have it, but it's not going to come all at once. And you will find so much more ease and grace and joy and love if you just allow yourself to enjoy the journey and the time that you have, because it is infinite and it'll all come together. Just keep loving.
Oh, wow, that was really powerful. I'd like to be my 18-year-old self having Laurel talk to me. I mean, LD, pardon me. So seriously, that is really good. Just slow down and breathe. And I think you hit on something, LD, that everybody's been, or a lot of the women have been talking about, which is how you feel internally versus all the external factors that come into play from a womanhood perspective. So I think that that's a really important thing. Perhaps you'll be talking about it a little more. So here we are, we're living in today's world. How do you feel about being a woman in today's world?
Mm. As I said before, it's a gift, it's a challenge, and boy, am I lucky to be here now. And I'm so grateful for all the women who have paved the way and done everything that needed to be done to get here. But wow, there's so much to be done. But I'm also so inspired by all the women who have come before and all the women that are completely kicking ass right now. Because yeah, it's a really beautiful thing to see on so many different scales and levels. And there's magic happening all around, and it's great to witness women in their power.
Wonderful. So, I mean, and it's great that I liked the fact that you focused really on the positive, leaning into that power. Talk to me about what you feel the challenges are, because you did kind of slip that in there, but the rest of your description was, your answer was really about the beauty, all the wonder, the gifts. So talk to me about what you think the challenges are.
Yeah, I think the challenges are the society we live in. And there once was a time when the matriarchal society did rule. And so much has happened since then. And so we're in this journey of unlearning and remembering, and also fighting this system that was built against us. So we've got an uphill battle on so many fronts, from just being able to connect and trust ourselves and our wisdom and our guidance, to having to deal with all these external things that are put on us, which then kind of goes back internal again. And then also working to change the narratives to create a more wholesome and collaborative and connected future, not just for women, but for everyone.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. That's a really good one. I think you also hit on something. I think that, well, you might not have said it like this. Like, I think with what's going on in society today, as well, as women are really outraged, they're angry. And on one hand, you can affect great change when you're angry, but it's also really, it can be very bad as well. Like, we've got to turn that anger into, being really productive and positive, because that's how you affect change, is change building on change when things are, and it doesn't mean that you're not going through adversity. It's just how you choose to, sort of the way you said, it's a gift and it's a challenge of being a woman in today's society. And then you focused on the gifts. So if we focus on the gifts and push more out on that regard and unite on that front, I think that's really interesting. So this sort of builds on that, which is like, what would you change if you could change anything to make life better for women today? Like, if you had all the power in the world to affect change, what would it be, LD?
Collaboration and bringing women together, and from there being able to bring us all together, because in the shakeup, in the shift of the world and society, we were taught that this idea of like a lack mindset took place, and that there wasn't enough. And that led to us being in a patriarchal society where men were in control and women fought so hard to get in, but because they were in control, they were limiting who could get in. And that created the competition within our own community. And so rather than celebrating and lifting each other up and recognizing how much space we have as a community to show in our own gifts, in our own glory, and all we have to offer, we've been taught to tear down and shame and judge and break these sisterhoods apart, rather than recognizing the abundance that we have and all we can do when we come together. Because it's not just healing, but it's also fun, and there's so much magic and power in it. So I think being able to shift that narrative and those conversations and those communications just allow for so much more space and authenticity and change to occur.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome answer. I mean, there's so much you can pick apart from that. So to your comment about the patriarchal nature of society and what's been, there's another word, which I think you were alluding to, which was the notion of competition. So it's not just shaming and judging and everything, tearing apart women, competing with women instead of lifting women. And I think, could you talk a little more about your thoughts on that? I'm just kind of curious, because you come at a different age, and it would be like really helpful to like, have you had experiences where you have felt torn apart, or people were competing versus supporting in your lifetime?
Um, I guess I've been fortunate where I haven't really had those experiences personally, through my adult stage and in the workplace and things along those lines. But even as a kid, I traveled around a lot, so I was bouncing around from different schools. So I was always this new kid who was friendly and liked to be around people. And there was always a queen bee. There was always someone there who liked to pick and tear down and saw me as a threat or competition in some way, even though that was not really my intention. And I just wanted to get along with people. And I mean, I've heard you hear stories and things along those lines. So I think there's already a shift that's happening, but the awareness, and I think there's a lot of subtle ways that it comes into play also, even in just how we interact and share and communicate with each other, which I think that shift um, can help from that competition to that collaboration community.
It's interesting just to build on that. I went to Costa Rica a few weeks ago to visit my daughter, and I ended up, she was at an eco village, and I ended up doing a women's workshop for 4 days in a row all day. So I was with 30 women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and a few in their 50s, of which I was included. And the experience, there was no competition. It was all about collaboration, but it took like 2 days of dancing, getting into your body, realizing not that we were competing, but just getting comfortable with each other, because there were just it was different generations, different women. So it was, and different cultures. And so it's really fascinating to witness and experience that, because like you, I had a lot of the competition throughout my entire life, when all I wanted to do was create my sisterhood. So, but it gave me a very different like lens into ways we can be. And I think part of what made that just so beautiful, it was an intentional workshop for women. So right now you're entering that space, and it's like you have to put your chips, your walls, whatever, out, leave your shoes outside the door, and come in as your authentic self, and be raw. And I think that that afforded a different type of conversation and experience. And it wasn't that it was so much conversation, it was probably more experience, but it was just, I was awestruck by it. So here I am in my late 50s experiencing this for the first time. And I'm thinking about my daughter who's there, and the fact that we can experience that, not just together, but that she's experiencing it at your age. And she has her whole future ahead to live in that land of collaboration, of love, of abundance, of sisterhood. Whereas it's been really a struggle for many decades for me to really find, what weaving in and out of that. So, good on you for figuring that out now. It's going to make life so much richer and better. And also it's going to stop wasting energy in a really toxic space. So that brings on the next question, which is kind of answered in a way, but I really want you to talk about, do you feel part of a sisterhood? And like, talk about how, so, if, and all the details.
Okay, yes. I'm happy and grateful and excited to share about my sisterhood, because it's been one of the greatest gifts that I've received in the past year and a half. Um, and until the end of 2020, I was in New York, and I realized that I needed to get out of the States. I wanted to go somewhere warm, and ended up deciding to do work exchange in the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico for a bit. And I had a friend who I met online during the summer of 2020 during my NeuroSomatic Flow teacher training program. And she ultimately invited me to stay with her at her villa on St. Croix. Um, and it this experience completely transformed my life. Um, Not only did I find an amazing community of sisters and friends, I've also been able to reconnect with my passion and love for dance in a way that I never expected. And now I am like a professional fire dancer and get to perform multiple nights a week. And the community that, so I now, this past year, I've actually moved to St. Croix full time now. And the community that we have here is so amazing. And it's the community itself, it's the fire. So it's like I have a St. Croix family and community. I have fire sisters all around the world already, just from these experiences this past year. And the level of authenticity that each of them brings forth just inspires me so much to be the best version of myself and the version that I'm meant to be here. And like, yeah, it can be scary to show up authentically and vulnerably and trust that the people that you're around care and support you enough to accept you exactly where you are. But being able to lean into and trust that and be able to give that to others has been life-changing in the best ways. So I'm so grateful for this most recent sisterhood that I've come into, which is really my life now, but also all the sisters that I've had throughout my life, because I am an only child. So for me, my friends in a lot of ways have been my family growing up, even when time and distance and space takes place. I really do value my friendships as I would family, and the women in my life, I am eternally grateful for, because they are some of the most kind, loving, and supportive people that I know. So,
You're
yay
so
for
lucky.
sisters!
Yay for sisters and sisterhood. Well, it's really amazing when one is able to find that and have that and then celebrate it and love it and know and covet it, because you know that it's just, there's nothing more special and sacred than sisterhood. So that's awesome. So we have a last question, which I think is a really big one. This is a platform for you, LD. You have an amazing life story. You're young, but you've experienced many different things. You are very articulate about what you feel, how you feel, leaning into all of that. And you have a platform right now to speak to the world, everyone in the world, all sisters, women, young, old. If you were to give them a message, what do you think the message needs to be today from LD?
Mm, keep loving. Keep loving yourself infinitely and abundantly. And loving yourself may not look like what you think it's supposed to. And it may not always feel great or be easy. But when we love ourselves and get quiet and we listen and connect with our bodies, we are able to heal and show up for ourselves in the most beautiful ways that allows us to share that love with others and share it with the world. Because there is beauty all around us, and each of us are that beauty. We're all a reflection of this amazing place that we get to be on, connecting and growing and sharing and loving with each other. So just remember that and have it and enjoy it. Enjoy it. Enjoy the process, even when it's hard.
I love that. No pun intended. Yeah. I mean, it's all about going inside, because the better you feel within, the more self-efficacy you have within, the more love you have within, the more you can goes to the outside world. And it's not necessarily intentionally. Maybe you're intentionally focused on, loving and all these things within, but you don't even realize, back to your point of being a reflection, it mirrors the behaviors that you want to sort of push out into the world or have other people receive. And in the law of attraction, love attracts love, and like attracts like, and good attracts good, and bad attracts bad, So, I think that's just amazing. It's a really interesting time. So I think if we all look within and be our best selves within, the world will probably be a little bit better, if not a lot better place, right?
Indeed. Just one day, one step, one breath at a time is all we can do. And being there to make all the difference, not anywhere else.
Wow. That's just so amazing. I think, I've been thinking a lot about these questions that I'm asking all of these you amazing women. Elizabeth, you have to ask yourself these questions. And of course, we hear, we go back to the famous "Be the change you want to see in the world." God love him. He says that. I mean, that's an amazing. But the truth is, if we lean into these things like self-love and really focus on loving yourself, accepting yourself, building yourself, all good things, and if every woman united in that sort of self-care, self-efficacy approach, and then was able to self-advocate, I think we'd have a really powerful sisterhood and world. I mean, yeah, so this has been just an awesome conversation. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say, if that went down a different road than what you intended.
I mean, I didn't know what was going to come out for that one, so I think that was the message that was supposed to come through. So thank you for that space, and thank you for inviting me to be on. This has been such a pleasure, and it's been very reflective and a great opportunity for me to connect with self and some things as well. So thank you for this opportunity, in many ways, as a opportunity to grow and heal and share. So thank you so much, Elizabeth.
You know what, LD, honestly, your voice, you're a very powerful young woman. I mean, you're not young, but you're not young. You know what I mean? You're somewhere in between. You're not, sorry, sometimes I'm funny. I don't mean to be, on the serious subject, but you have a very, powerful point of view that I think, is very healing. It's very connected to, what could really help women. And I think at the end of the day, if we think about what Under the Sisterhood represents, is we're not just honoring and holding space. We're like, our goal is to create the space for women to be seen, heard, and honored. But I think you're seen, you're heard, and honored. But I think that you don't realize you're also helping. You're helping women with your message. Your message is so powerful. It's so articulated with beauty and poise and grace. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm so touched. Everybody, I've always loved LD. She just has one of these spirits that any woman would connect with, any human connects with, because she's so special. But and I was so delighted when I reached out and she said, I would love to. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you so much. I'm receiving every word you just shared, Elizabeth, and it means so much. I appreciate you infinitely.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for listening to Under the Sisterhood. We hope you will join us next episode to honor amazing women from around the world. This podcast is created and hosted by Under the Sisterhood, LLC, and Elizabeth Elfenbein, produced by Elizabeth Elfenbein and Zach Slapp, and edited by Zach Slapp. The music is by Ayla Schaefer. Her song, Rose.